Hi viewers, hope you're all doing good. Welcome to this video. What you're going to learn in this video is how to deploy the dashboard, Kubernetes Dashboard Web UI in your Kubernetes cluster. So I've only done one video in Kubernetes series. So if you subscribe to my channel and to this playlist, you should be able to get updates about the upcoming videos. So in this series of videos, we are going to learn about Kubernetes. So I've done a couple of videos. The first one is about installing the Kubernetes cluster using kubeadm on CentOS 7 virtual machines. And I've also done one on Vagrant, so how you could use Vagrant to provision Kubernetes cluster. So this is the third video in this series, and you're going to be learning how to deploy the web dashboard for Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so let's dive in straight away. I'm going to bring up my terminal here. CD to play, so this is where I do all my stuff. And I've got a GitHub account and I've got a Kubernetes repository where I put all the files, supporting files for this video series. So let's clone that. Git clone https github.com/justme and open source /Kubernetes. CD to Kubernetes, CD to Vagrant provisioning. Here you've got the Vagrant file. I'm not going to explain anything about this because I've already done a video on this one. All I'm going to do is I haven't got any virtual machines. So if I bring up VirtualBox, as you can see, there is no virtual machines. There are no virtual machines right now, and I'm going to set up a few. All I'm going to do is just do Vagrant up and wait for it, and wait for all the 3 machines to get provisioned. So this is going to set up a Kubernetes cluster with 1 master node and 2 worker nodes, and once it's ready, the Kubernetes cluster will be up and running, and we can take it from there. I'm going to pause the video here once while the machine is being provisioned, and I'll get back. Right, the Vagrant up command has finished. As you can see here, it has provisioned us kmaster, kworker, and kworker2, 3 machines. And in the VirtualBox console, you can see these 3 virtual machines. Right, and the cluster should be up and running now. And before that, what I'm going to show you is how you could use the kubectl command from your host machine. What the Vagrant app has done is it has provisioned 3 machines, and you can log into the kmaster Vagrant SSH kmaster, and you can run kubectl command, kubectl cluster info, kubectl version -- short. It's all running fine. So I don't want to log into these VMs, so I should be able to use the kubectl command from my host machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do that. If I bring up my browser, and if you go to the kubernetes.io website, install kubectl kubernetes.io, click on the first link and scroll down to install kubectl binary using curl. Go to Linux and check this command. So as of recording this video, the version is 1.12, but depending on when you're watching this video, you might have to check out the latest version. So I've copied that and I'm going to paste it here. So it's downloading the kubectl binary. What we got to do next is to set the execute permission for that. we'll do that using chmod +x kubectl, and then we got to move it to the user local bin. Sudo move kubectl to user local bin. That's it, that's done. We could use kubectl now. If you do which kubectl, you'll have your kubectl, but we're not yet ready to use the kubectl because it needs some configuration. Okay, so I'm going to update the host file on my host machine. Sudo vi etc hosts, and I'm going to add the IP address for all the 3 virtual machines. 172.42.42.100, which is kmaster. 172.42.42.101, which is kworker1. And 102 for kworker2. Okay, now I'm going to copy the kube configuration from the kmaster. Before that, I need to create a directory called .kube under my home directory. Okay, so scp root at kmaster.example.com /etc kubernetes admin.conf. So that's the configuration file. We're going to copy that into the .kube directory we created earlier. That's copied, but I should have renamed it. Okay, move .kube admin.conf to kube config. So we're all set now. If you type kubectl now, you should be able to interact with the cluster. Kubectl cluster info, there you go. You've got the kubectl. So let's check out our nodes. Kubectl get nodes. So we've got 3 nodes which are all ready now. Okay, so I'm going to go one directory above, and I'm going to cd to dashboard where I've got all the YAML files. So these are resources. When you're setting up dashboard, what you got to do is there are 3 components to it. One is the InfluxDB, the other one is Heapster, and then dashboard. We also create a service account so that we log in to the dashboard using this service account. So let's take a look at what's inside the InfluxDB. InfluxDB is the storage engine. Heapster is the metrics collection application. So it collects metrics like the node metrics, what's the CPU utilization, what's the memory utilization, and so on for the nodes and the pods and the containers running within the nodes, and then it stores the information in InfluxDB. And when we deploy dashboard, we should be able to see all the metrics in the dashboard. So vi influxdb.yaml. So these are the resources that we are going to deploy. So don't worry about what's this. The first one is the deployment resource. So we are creating a deployment with this pod template, which is a container, and we are downloading the container from the Google Cloud repository, and we are creating a service. So don't worry about these resources. We'll cover this in the future video, what a deployment is, what a service is, what a pod, how to use container, how to use replica sets, and so on, what a service account, what a cluster role is, what a role, and how to bind the cluster role with a service account, and so on. So just I wanted to show you what's in this YAML file. It's just a deployment and a service. Close this and let's apply it. Kubectl create -f. Okay, before that, let me show you. Kubectl -n for namespace. Namespaces are like partitions. You get the default namespace, public namespace, and the kube system namespace. Kube system namespace is where the pods and containers and all the resources for the cluster operation is stored. So we're going to select the Kube system, get pods -o void. So you can see all these pods are running. So once you create the InfluxDB deployment, you can see additional pods getting created. kubectl create -f for file, InfluxDB. If you do that, it says the deployment has been created, the service has been created. If you run the same command again, get pods, you can see there is a new pod getting created. Monitoring InfluxDB container is creating. Let's wait for it to complete. Okay, that's running now, which is monitoring InfluxDB. Okay, now let's go ahead and look at what's in heapster.yaml. So you have a service account. I'm creating a service account named heapster. I'm creating a cluster role binding with an existing cluster role, and the cluster role is cluster admin. And what this cluster binding is doing is it's binding the service account heapster with this cluster role cluster admin. And we've got the deployment, we've got the service. Okay, let's go ahead and create that. kubectl create -f heapster.yaml. So it has created the service account, cluster role binding, deployment, and service. Let's go and check the status of the pods. So now it's creating the pod for heapster. Let's wait for it to complete. Okay, that's done now. So you can see the heapster pod running. It's running on the node kworker2. We've also got the monitoring InfluxDB, which is running on the kworker1 node. Now let's look at the dashboard.yaml. Dashboard.yaml, it creates a secret. We'll cover what a secret, what a config map, and so on. It creates a service account called Kubernetes Dashboard. It creates a role called Kubernetes Dashboard Minimal. The role just defines what a user can do, and we do the role binding. We'll come to know what's the difference between a role and a cluster role is, and what a role binding and a cluster role binding is. Deployment, service. I've downloaded this YAML from kubernetes.io, and the only difference I made is change the type of the service to node port, and I've added this option, node port 32323, so that every time you go to dashboard, you know what port to connect to. Okay, let's go ahead and create this. kubectl create -f dashboard.yaml. So it has created all those resources: secret, service account, role binding, deployment, and service. Let's look at the pods. This pod is getting created now, Kubernetes Dashboard. Let's wait for it to complete. Okay, Kubernetes Dashboard is running now. kubectl cluster info. You can see the heapster service, the monitoring InfluxDB service. Okay, so that's all done now. When we set up a service as node port, basically what it does is it opens up that port on all the worker nodes, so you can connect to any worker node in your cluster, pointing to that port, and you can get to the dashboard. Let's see if it's working now. So as I've already added the kmaster kworker to my etc host file, I can connect to it. https kworker1:32323. Cool, that's the dashboard, but we got to find out the token using which user we're going to log into the dashboard. So for that, we're going to create the service account. I'm creating a service account named Dashboard Admin. I'm creating a cluster role binding. I'm binding the cluster admin cluster role to this user. So let's apply that. kubectl create -f. So it has created that one. So now if I do kubectl describe service account, SA is short for service account, SA and dashboard admin, you got to specify the namespace. By default it goes to the default namespace, so you got to specify kube system. Okay, so that we have the secret. I've copied that secret, and what now we're going to do is kubectl get secret and that secret. Again, you got to specify the namespace. Sorry, kubectl describe secret. Okay, so that's the token. I'm going to copy that token and I'm going to paste it here. Select token, paste it, click sign in. Cool, that's your Kubernetes dashboard. And you can look at the namespaces. You've got the public namespace, the default namespace, the kube system namespace. If you look nodes, these are the metrics collected by Heapster and stored in InfluxDB. And you've got these nodes. You can go into the nodes and look at the nodes details. So basically, for any type of resource, you could use kubectl describe the resource name, and it will give you a bunch of information. And you can see that visually in the dashboard. Persistent volumes, what roles you've got, and you can select which namespace you want to see. Default, and if I go to kube system, you'll see all these roles. What you can also do is you can also select all namespaces so that it shows resources from all the namespaces. Okay, coming to workloads. If you go to workloads or overview, it gives you an idea of how many pods are running, how many deployments, how many services, and so on. So you can see here the daemon sets, deployments, pods, replica sets. We'll go through each terms, each resources in detail in the future videos. This video is just for the dashboard, so I'll walk you through the different tabs we've got here. So we've got daemon sets, deployments, pods, and you can also see the CPU and memory stats for all these pods. Cron jobs, you've got daemon sets, you've got all these deployments, jobs, what pods are running, replica sets, stateful sets, the services. Okay, so pods. If I go to pods and if I select a pod here, for example, heapster.pod, what you can do is you can look at the container where it's running. The details are here, and if I scroll down, it gives you the events for this pods, when it's created and what it's doing. It's pulling the image, the container image, it's starting the container, and if it has got any persistent volumes attached to it. And one thing what you could do is you can look at the logs from the container. You can use kubectl logs followed by the pod name, or you can come here, look at the logs. That's going to open up a new tab, and you can see the logs for any pods from the dashboard. You don't have to click through the pods, but you can also look at this one, this little icon here that shows you the logs. Okay, so what else you can do here in this dashboard? You can create a text file here. For example, I'm going to create a pod, API version v1 beta, so on. So you can write your own YAML file here, or you could create from file. If you select that, Kubernetes dashboard, and you can select the dashboard Heapster YAML. If you've got a YAML file downloaded, you can upload it. It's same as running kubectl create -f on your YAML file. And you can also create the application. You give it a name, what container you want to download, and the number of pods you want, and if you want to create any service, internal service, external service, and you can also click advanced options. You can set various options here. You can we can go through this later, but in my future video, this one is just to show you how to install dashboard and how to navigate, use the dashboard. But in all my future videos, I'm not going to be using the dashboard at all, because I'm a terminal kind of person. So whatever you do, you can do it from the command line. For example, kubectl get pods for the namespace kube system. So the heapster. If you want to look at it, kubectl describe pod heapster and kube system. That's gonna show you all these details. These are the events, what conditions, and the heapster, the image, what it's doing, what image it's pulling, and so on. And you can also look at kubectl get services -n kube system services, if I spell it correctly. And for example, if you want to look at the Kubernetes Dashboard service, kubectl get services Kubernetes Dashboard -n kube system. That's going to show that one. And if you want a YAML version of it, -output YAML, that's the YAML file. Okay, and I think that's all I wanted to show in this video. This one, what I did was I didn't have any virtual machines at the beginning. I used my the GitHub account, the Vagrant file, to bring up the cluster, to build the cluster, and I've got kmaster, kworker 1, kworker 2, 1 master, 2 worker nodes. Vagrant up just builds this cluster in about like 8 or 9 minutes. It depends on the hardware spec of your host machine, how quick your machine is, and how fast your internet connection is. It might take a little longer in your case. And provisioned the machine, checked out my YAML files from the GitHub repository and created those resources. And I created a service account. I got the token. I installed the token in the browser, and then I was able to see the dashboard. Cool. I think what you could also do is HTTPS, because the service, the dashboard service we installed, we create the dashboard service using node port. You can access it using any node. We previously accessed it using the kworker 1. Now we can go to kworker 2, and it's going to show the same dashboard. Got to use the token, paste the token, and basically that's it. That's not in my clipboard. Okay, cool. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, please share it with your friends and subscribe for more videos. I'm very excited to go through this series of Kubernetes videos. The playlist is named Learn Kubernetes, and I hope you will come back and watch my next videos. I'll be posting one video every week. So thank you so much for watching, and if you've got any doubts or any questions or any concerns, issues, just drop me a comment and I should be able to respond to you. Thank you so much. See you in my next video. Bye bye. Have a great day.